New York City, 1778. The stench of rotting wood and salt hung heavy over the East River. Under the flickering shadow of a British oil lamp, a man named Robert Townsend, a quiet, unassuming merchant, scribbled a message in what appeared to be plain water. To the naked eye, the paper was blank. But in the hands of General George Washington, it would become a map to survival. If Townsend were caught, he wouldn't just be killed, he would be hanged as a traitor to the crown. This is not just a story of war, it is the story of the ordinary citizens who became the ghosts of the American Revolution. Chapter 1. The City of Shadows. The year was 1776, and New York City was a forest of masts and redcoats. The British had seized the harbor, turning the city into their headquarters for the war against the rebellious colonies. From the balcony of the City Hall, the Union Jack fluttered defiantly, a constant reminder that the King's law was absolute. In the midst of this occupied territory lived Abraham Woodhull. A farmer from Setauket, Long Island, Woodhull was a man of few words and anxious eyes. He wasn't a soldier. He didn't carry a musket onto the battlefield, yet he was perhaps the most dangerous man in the colonies. Abraham sat in a corner of a crowded tavern in Manhattan, sipping a lukewarm ale. Around him, British officers bragged about their plans to crush the rebel Washington. Abraham listened. He didn't take notes, he committed every name, every regiment number, and every rumored movement to a memory sharpened by fear. He was Samuel Culper, the first link in a chain that stretched from the heart of British-occupied New York to the freezing camps of the Continental Army. Chapter 2. The Chemistry of Betrayal. Information was a currency, but transporting it was a death sentence. To solve this, Washington's Director of Military Intelligence, Benjamin Talmadge, introduced a revolutionary tool, sympathetic ink. It wasn't the crude lemon juice of schoolboy pranks. This was a two-part chemical compound developed by Sir James J. One chemical, the stain, was used to write the message, which would disappear as it dried. The second chemical, the reagent, was needed to make the writing reappear. In a small basement in Setauket, Abraham Woodhull's childhood friend, Anna Smith Strong, played her part. She was the signalman. When the coast was clear for a message to be picked up, she would hang a black petticoat on her clothesline. To the British patrols, it was just laundry. To the spies, it was a green light. The number of handkerchiefs she hung next to the petticoat told the courier which hidden cove the boatman Caleb Brewster was waiting in. It was a dance of domesticity masking a conspiracy of high treason. Chapter 3. The Merchant of Secrets. As the war dragged into 1779, Woodhull was becoming too well known by the British. The ring needed someone inside the city, someone the British trusted implicitly. Enter Robert Townsend, a dry goods merchant and a society reporter for a loyalist newspaper. Townsend was a Quaker, a man of peace. Yet the brutality he witnessed, the prison ships in the harbor where thousands of Americans were left to starve and rot, turned his heart toward the cause of liberty. Under the code name Culper, Jr., Townsend moved through the highest circles of British society. He sold them fine linens and expensive teas while stealing their plans for the next campaign. He was the perfect ghost. He lived a double life so convincing that even his own family believed he was a loyalist to the king. Chapter 4. The Ledger of Lies. By the spring of 1779, New York City had become a claustrophobic cage for Robert Townsend. To the British officers who frequented his dry goods store on Peck Slip, he was the quintessential loyalist merchant, efficient, quiet, and seemingly indifferent to the rebellion brewing in the countryside. They called him a sensible fellow. They had no idea that every time he bowed his head to record a sale of silk or tea, he was mentally cataloging the gold braid on their uniforms, which told them their rank, and the gossip they spilled while waiting for their parcels. One Tuesday, a major of the 80th Regiment of Foot entered the shop. He was loud, boasting of a new shipment arriving from London. "The Americans think their paper money is worth the trees it's printed on," the major laughed, slamming a heavy satchel onto the wooden counter. "Soon their Continentals won't even buy a loaf of bread." Townsend's quill paused for a fraction of a second. He didn't look up. "Inflation is a cruel mistress, Major," he replied smoothly. That night, Townsend didn't go to sleep. He slipped into the back room of his boarding house. He had seen what was in the major's satchel, sheets of counterfeit continental currency printed with terrifying precision in London. The British plan was simple and lethal. Flood the colonies with fake money, collapse their economy, and watch the revolution starve to death from the inside. He reached for his vial of stain. Using a clean quill, he wrote between the lines of a mundane business letter addressed to a John Bolton. "The Crown prepares a strike not of lead, but of paper. Counterfeits are being dispersed from the city. The value of the continental dollar is the target. Warn the general." The message was invisible. To any British patrol that intercepted it, the letter appeared to be a boring request for more crates of salted cod. But John Bolton was the code name for Major Benjamin Talmadge, Washington's spymaster. Chapter 5. The Boatman's Ghost. Getting the message out of Manhattan was the most dangerous part. The city was surrounded by water and patrolled by the Greenwich Guard, loyalist militias who took pleasure in hanging anyone without a valid travel pass. Townsend handed the letter to a courier, a man whose name history has largely forgotten, one of many silent links. This courier traveled through the woods of Upper Manhattan, dodging British outposts until he reached the shores of the Long Island Sound. Across the water, in the small town of Setauket, Abraham Woodhull waited. But Woodhull couldn't just walk to the shore. He was under constant suspicion. He needed a signal. This is where Anna Smith Strong became the heartbeat of the operation. Her property sat on a neck of land visible from the water. On a crisp October morning, she walked to her clothesline. She hung a black petticoat, the A signal. Then she hung 3 handkerchiefs. Hidden in a nearby cove, Caleb Brewster saw the signal through his spyglass. The 3 handkerchiefs meant he was to wait at Hidden Hole, the 3rd secret landing spot on his map. Brewster was a giant of a man, a whaleboat captain with nerves of iron. Under the cover of a moonless night, he rowed his small boat across the choppy, frigid waters of the Long Island Sound, right under the noses of British warships. He met Woodhull in the shadows of the salt marshes, exchanged the invisible letters for news of the Continental Army's needs, and vanished back into the mist. It was a relay race where the baton was a secret and the finish line was the survival of a nation.